Hey, welcome back to Info 3370, studying social inequality with data science. Today we're talking about pivot longer. Pivot longer is a complicated command that's often confusing to folks, so I'm going to try to motivate it and then show you how it works and then recap sort of what made that happen. So here we have our summarized data frame that we produced in a previous video. So we took a bunch of data on people, and we have each row representing a subgroup of those people. So this is those with a college degree observed in the year 1962. And we have that subgroup summarized by three summary statistics, the 10th, 50th, and 90th percentiles of incomes. But if we were going to go make a ggplot of these data, we'd like to have all of these income values in a single variable that we could pass to the y aesthetic of the ggplot. So today we're going to learn how to take a data frame like this and turn it into one that's much longer with many more rows, where these three columns get dropped down into one column of values and one column of variable names. So we're going to do that with pivot longer. To use pivot longer, I'm going to create a pivoted object, which could be any name you want to name for your new object, and I'm going to hand it the summarized data that we used previously with the pipe operator. And then I'm going to start my call to pivot longer. So the first argument to pivot longer is the calls argument. This tells the function which columns are going to be used to convert a wide data frame down to a long data frame. So in this case, we can hand them as a vector of strings, so P10, P50, and P90. The next argument I often use is the names_to argument. So names_to tells it that it's going to take these three names, P10, P50, P90, and it's going to put them into a new variable here. So I like to use the name quantity for that variable. Then the last argument I often use is values_to, and so this says all these income values here, they're going to go into one column. And so what's that column going to be called? Here I want to call that column of values income. So I'm going to go ahead and run this here and then look at our pivoted data frame. And I'm going to pull up so we can compare the two next to each other. So we see that we had our summarized data frame here and we have our pivoted data frame here. And you see what's changed is that these three column names, P10, P50, P90, they got pulled down into the quantity column. And that's because we used the argument names_to equals quantity. Then the values that appeared here in these three columns, they got pivoted down to one column, which has the title income because we used values_to equals income. Then if we compare these two data frames, you see that the first had 120 rows and the second has 360 rows. And that's because for each row of the initial data frame, there became 3 rows in the second data frame because these 3 columns each became their own row. So if you want, you can make your pivot longer fancier. So for example, you can use functions to extract the columns. So here I might look at this and say, really, I want to pivot all the columns that begin with the letter P. And so to do that, you could use starts with until you want to pivot all columns that start with P. And if I do that, then I have the same pivoted data frame here. So you can do fancy stuff with the regular expressions here in order to pull out columns if you have a really complicated data frame with lots of them. But the key idea here is really just this basic idea that when you have a wide data frame and you want to get multiple columns to have their data stored in a single column, then pivot longer is the tool you want to use.